Big changes rarely happen all at once. At Okami Kai Martial Arts and Fitness, they happen one class at a time.
Hi, I'm Scott.
And I'm Jennifer. We're the owners and instructors at Okami Kai.
Most parents come to us wanting the same things: confidence, focus, and resilience for their kids.
They want a place that feels supportive, not overwhelming. Somewhere their child can try, struggle a little, and learn to keep going.
We've been guiding families in our community for years, and we've seen real growth happen, one class at a time.
Kids learn to listen, try again, and work through challenges, one class at a time.
Parents get to watch confidence build through practice and not pressure, one class at a time.
Okami Kai Martial Arts and Fitness, one class at a time. Visit okamikai.com to get started.
When I was in elementary school, our teacher used to read us The Sleep Book by Dr. Seuss. Without fail, almost every single time, I was yawning, my eyes were getting drowsy. It didn't matter how much sugar I'd had at lunch. Didn't matter if I'd been running around at recess 20 minutes earlier. That book was like a biological off switch. I'm going to do my absolute best to make sure this episode is nothing like that book. But here's the thing. The fact that that story worked so well on us as kids says something real about how our brains respond to rhythm and repetition and quiet. Our bodies knew what to do when environment gave them the permission. The problem for most adults is that we've spent years sending our bodies the exact opposite signals and then wondering why we feel like garbage. So today, we're talking about sleep, not in a vague, you should sleep more kind of way. I want to actually dig into what's happening inside your body when you sleep, why cutting it short costs you more than you think, and what you can change tonight. Not next month, not after the summer, tonight. This is going to make a real difference. And yes, I know the irony of a podcast about sleep. Try to stay awake for this one. Okay, so here's a fact that I picked up during some research for this. In 1942, the average person slept 7.9 hours a night. Today, it's closer to 6.5. That's about 90 minutes gone. Quietly, gradually, across a few generations, we collectively lost 90 minutes of sleep and mostly just adapted to it. We renamed the symptoms, we called it adulthood. Think about what 90 minutes means in a training context. That's more than a martial arts class or a fitness class. If someone told you that you were skipping a full session's worth of recovery every single night, you'd take that seriously. But because the loss happens while you're unconscious, it's invisible. You don't feel it leave. You just feel vaguely worse over time and assume that that's just how life goes after 35. It isn't, and the research is pretty unanimous about that. Here's where I want to flip the script on how most people think about sleep, because I think the framing is all wrong. Most of us think of sleep as the thing we do when we're not doing anything, like it's the pause between the real stuff. Training is the work, sleep is just downtime. It's the opposite. Sleep is the work. Everything you did during the day, the drilling, the sparring, the fitness class, the problem solving, that's just the stimulus. Sleep is where your body actually processes it. When you hit deep, slow wave sleep, your pituitary gland releases the majority of its daily growth hormone. Not a trickle, the majority. That's what drives muscle repair, connective tissue recovery, and the physical adaptation to training. If you're cutting sleep short, you're cutting that window short. The throws you drilled, the guard passes you worked, the punching, the kicking, the kata, the conditioning you pushed through, your body needed the night to finish the job and you didn't give it the time. It's like getting groceries and leaving half of them in the car. The work isn't done just because you got most of the way there. Now here's something I genuinely love about this research though, because it's directly relevant to everyone in this community, and that's that exercise improves sleep. Meaningfully, consistently, across study after study, people who train regularly fall asleep faster, spend more time in deep sleep, and wake up less through the night. And that type of training matters. It's not just cardio. Resistance-based movement, skill-based training, physically and mentally demanding activity all show up strongly in the data. Think about what we do in a martial arts class. You're not just moving your body, you're solving problems in real time. You're processing spatial information, responding to another person, learning and ingraining technique under pressure. Your brain is working as hard as your body. The dual demand, physical and cognitive, produces a kind of fatigue that translates exceptionally well into deep restorative sleep. You're not just physically tired, you're genuinely spent. And our fitness classes carry the same benefit: structured intensity, consistency, the accountability of showing up with other people. So if you're already training with us, you've had a head start on most people. The classes you're attending aren't just building skill and fitness, they're building better sleep. The loop works in your favor as long as you actually let yourself rest afterwards. And if fatigue has been keeping you from showing up, here's the counterintuitive truth. Movement usually breaks that cycle. It doesn't deepen it. The energy comes back when you start moving, not before. So how much sleep do you actually need? Research drawing on over 1 million subjects, huge sample sizes, consistently finds that around 7 hours is associated with the lowest risk of cardiovascular disease, the best sustained cognitive function, and the longest healthy lifespan. 7 hours keeps showing up across different studies, different populations, different decades. It's not a magic number, but it's a reliable floor. Now you might be thinking, I'm fine on 6, and maybe you are, for a while. The tricky thing about chronic sleep restriction is that it degrades your ability to accurately assess how impaired you actually are. You adapt to a new baseline and call it normal. Your reaction time slows, your emotional regulation gets thinner, your ability to learn new technique in class gets quietly worse, and you attribute it to stress or age or not eating well enough because you can't see the actual cause. It's like the frog in the water that's slowly heating up. The change is too gradual to feel dramatic, so you don't respond to it. Here's another myth worth addressing. Sleeping in on weekends doesn't fix it. Research on sleep debt suggests you can reduce it with recovery sleep, but you can't fully erase a week's worth of deficit with just a weekend. The better play is protecting your average across the whole week rather than running a deficit and trying to pay it back in bulk. Your brain runs on a roughly 24-hour rhythm. Melatonin, cortisol, body temperature, immune activity, all of it follows a cycle that your body has been calibrating since you were born. It's called the circadian rhythm, and it's not a suggestion, it's an infrastructure. When you go to bed at wildly different times depending on the day, your internal clock gets confused. Researchers actually call it social jet lag. Your biology thinks it's in different time zones because your schedule keeps shifting, and Monday morning feels like Monday morning for exactly that reason. The fix is boring. I'll be honest with you. It's just consistency. A regular bedtime and wake up time held within about a half-hour window, even on weekends. That's it. Your body begins to anticipate sleep before you even lie down. The melatonin starts rising, the body temperature starts dropping, the whole preparatory cascade begins on schedule because you've trained your biology to expect it. Think of it like a warm-up. If you showed up to class and immediately went full intensity with no warm-up, you'd feel it. Your body needs the transition, and sleep is the same. Consistency is the warm-up. About 2 hours before sleep, your core body temperature naturally starts to drop. That cooling isn't incidental. It's one of the primary signals your brain uses to initiate sleep. Your peripheral blood vessels dilate to release heat, your core cools, and your hypothalamus interprets that as a permission to shift into sleep mode. If your room is too warm, that signal gets blocked. You toss around, you wake up, you assume you're just a bad sleeper when really your body is trying to do exactly what it's supposed to do and the environment won't let it. Research across hundreds of thousands of sleep records finds that even the modest increases in overnight temperature are associated with more waking and less total sleep. The target range is roughly 15 to 19 degrees Celsius, cooler than most people keep their bedrooms. For those of you who are doing our evening classes, this is relevant. Hard training raises your core temperature and keeps it elevated for an extended window afterwards. That's not a reason to stop training at night, but it is a reason to give yourself some time and cooling space before you expect to fall asleep easily. A hot body going straight to bed in a warm room is working against itself. Now let's talk caffeine. I think most people genuinely underestimate how long it stays in their system. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors. Adenosine is the chemical that accumulates while you're awake and builds what researchers call sleep pressure, that genuine heaviness that makes you actually want to sleep. Caffeine doesn't clear it, it just sits in front of it, blocking the signal. The adenosine keeps piling up behind the door. When the caffeine finally clears, it all hits at once, which is partly why the afternoon crash can feel so sharp. The half-life of caffeine in most adults is about 5 to 7 hours. That means half of a 3 p.m. coffee is still circulating at 9 or 10 p.m. Sleep research consistently finds that even afternoon caffeine measurably reduces time in deep, slow-wave sleep, even in people who fall asleep without any difficulty. They go out fine, the sleep is just shallower, and they wake up more tired than they should. If your target sleep time is around 10 p.m., a 2 p.m. cutoff is a reasonable place to start. And be honest with yourself about what you're consuming. Pre-workouts and energy drinks often have substantially more caffeine than people assume. This is one of the changes you can make today. Not a lifestyle overhaul, just move the last coffee an hour or two earlier and see what happens to how you feel in the morning. And while we're talking about caffeine, let's hit alcohol. It is the most widely used sleep aid in the world, and it is genuinely effective at one thing, helping you fall asleep faster. The problem is everything that comes after. Even 1 or 2 drinks in the evening suppresses REM sleep in the first half of the night. As the alcohol gets metabolized and blood concentration drops, there's a rebound activation in the second half that fragments sleep. And this increases your wakefulness and disrupts the later REM cycles. REM or REM stands for rapid eye movement, and it's what happens while you're sleeping when your brain consolidates memory and processes skill learning. For anyone training technique-based movement, like martial artists, alcohol is costing you retention. The BJJ sequence you drilled, the kata you learned, if you had a few drinks when you got home, you got less of it. I should note here that this isn't about abstinence. It's about timing and awareness. Finishing your last drink 3 to 4 hours before bed substantially reduces the sleep architecture impact. And that's a manageable shift for most people. Now let's talk about light. Your brain doesn't experience light as comfort or discomfort. It experiences it as information. Specifically, bright light in the evening tells your hypothalamus that it's still daytime. Melatonin production gets suppressed, your internal clock shifts later, and the sleep pressure you've been building all day sits in a kind of waiting room, while your body's waiting for the darkness signal that never arrives. The main culprit is overhead lighting and screens. Both emit blue light, and that most strongly suppresses melatonin. Dimming your home in the last couple hours before bed, switching the lamps, using warmer bulbs, reducing screen brightness, all of that are legitimate interventions. Not because some wellness influencer said so, but because this is how your photoreceptors actually work. And here's the piece that people often skip. It's not just the light from your screen that activates your nervous system at night, it's the content. Anxious scrolling through high stimulating videos, reading work emails, messages on Facebook, they all conflict with your nervous system. Night mode on your phone does not filter out a stressful newsfeed. For me and a lot of people, the issue isn't falling asleep. I'm tired enough. The issue is the mind won't cooperate. The to-do list that appears the moment the room goes quiet. The replay of the conversation I had that didn't go well. The planning for tomorrow that turns into planning for next month. Here's what the research on mindfulness-based sleep interventions actually shows. And I say actually because this is an area where the claims can get pretty inflated. What holds up is this. Breath-focused attention and body scan techniques measurably reduce what researchers call pre-sleep cognitive arousal, the spinning. They do it by activating the parasympathetic nervous system, lowering cortisol, and giving the brain's monitoring system something neutral to anchor to instead of just the next thing on the list. You don't need to clear your mind. And quite honestly, for me, that is not a realistic goal. You just need to interpret the loop long enough for your body to take over. 10 to 20 minutes of this kind of practice in the evening shortens the time it takes to fall asleep in controlled studies. And for anyone who trains with us, this is not unfamiliar. Breath control and present moment attention are embedded in serious martial arts training. In the adult classes, I'll do a thing called Hansei. Hansei basically means mental reflection. And it's a time where we can close our eyes and we can just do some breathing and think about what we learned in the class previously. There's another thing which I don't usually do. It's called Mokuso, and it actually prepares you for the class. Hansei is different. It's a reflection. It's a time to basically let the lessons try to take hold in your brain. So this is a little different. This is trying to calm down and trying to be present. Now, I'm going to totally be honest with you. I have tried different mental techniques to try to go back to sleep. I do mental countdown, counting back from 1,000. There was an article written by somebody in the military, and I can't remember whether it was the Army, Navy SEALs, something like that. And he had said that he was in a war zone, and basically what he did was a sleep technique where you closed your eyes and you just tried to look in the back of your eyelids, and you basically tried to keep on telling yourself, just sleep, don't think, just sleep. And you just keep repeating that. I've tried that. It isn't as easy as what I'm making it out to be. And that being said, I know that the things that I'm advising you on, although it's all based on research, you might have something that you're dealing with that's even more persistent. If you've had difficulty falling or staying asleep at least 3 nights a week for more than 3 months, that crosses into chronic insomnia territory. And the lifestyle adjustments we've been talking about may not be sufficient on their own. The intervention that research consistently points to is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBTI. It outperforms sleep medication in head-to-head trials in both short and long-term outcomes without the dependency or withdrawal issues. It works by rebuilding your brain's relationship with sleep, the association between bed and rest rather than bed and frustration, the sleep drive that gets rebuilt through structured restriction, the cognitive patterns that keep the cycle going. It's available through therapists trained in behavioral sleep medicine and increasingly through digital programs. If you've tried everything and nothing has moved, this might be where to go next. Don't just keep suffering through it. All right, I want to bring this home. So remember that Dr. Seuss book from the intro? Here's what I think about now when I think about that classroom. Every one of us was ready to fall asleep because our bodies were being given exactly the right signals. Calm voice, gentle rhythm, no bright lights, no urgency, no screens, just a quiet room and permission to rest. And the fact that we were being told over and over again that it was okay to fall asleep. We knew how to sleep. We were great at it. Somewhere between then and now, most of us just stopped giving ourselves the conditions to do it. You don't need to change everything tonight. That's not how this works, and honestly, that's not how anything worth building works. But pick one thing from today and do it. Move your last coffee earlier. Dim your house at 9 p.m. Set a consistent wake time and actually hold it this weekend. Turn the thermostat down before you get into bed. One thing, tonight. Because the version of you that sleeps well is not a different person. It's the same person with better inputs, more patient, sharper in class, recovering the way your training deserves, present with the people you come home to. That version is closer than you think. It just needs the conditions. Go get some sleep. This has been a Capsule Broadcasting production, taken from the Sleep Book. 99 zillion, 9 trillion and 2 creatures are sleeping. So how about you?